Hello all, welcome to study 9 of the Solving Studies to Improve Chess Calculation. Uh, Here I bring you again Alexey Troitsky with an interesting position for you to solve. So as always, you are going to have a countdown. If you want to review the guide, now it's the time. And as soon as the countdown starts, you can start solving the study. I will see you in a while with the solution. Okay, let's go for the best move and hope you find it. I don't think it's very hard to find the first phase of the solution. It's A5 exclamation mark. Basically, we are going to have two acts like in a play, first act, second act, because this is a solution with a clear two phases. And the first one is to force the king to go after the a pawn, because when the a pawn reaches a5, it's reducing the square to need to be controlled, so the king is forced to enter the square, and so it's basically almost force this part, the first part. But let's just get away moves that doesn't make any help. Like for example, f4 check. This just allows black to go inside the square because it was already inside the square, but now the king is able to control the pawn. Let's see, for example, if the pawn advance, I can approach. And now there's no way for us to protect the pawn, and so even if we win that pawn, as you can see here, this is a drawing pawn end game because black will promote to queen soon, but then white has the f pawn that on the seventh rank that we know that it's a draw. So let's just move on some more moves, and here it's a draw. You need to know how to defend this, of course, but the queen can't win against the f or c pawn on the 7 with the king too far away. Okay, other move possible, maybe this one, trying to attack the pawn, something like that, but also not possible. So here it's very easy for black to control the advancing of the pawn, like this, and now it's impossible for white to force it anymore, and we have a draw. So having these two, I won't say secondary, but not useful moves, I think it's very easy to find that a5 is the right plan. So the idea is to force the king inside the square. So, and the king needs to go to the square. Now we advance the pawn again, and the king is also again forced to go inside the square. So the king needs to control the square of promotion. The bishop is too far away to help. And now we have this I don't say it's hard to find move, but it's the only move, of course. It is knight d5, because the idea is if the king takes the knight, then I can promote the pawn without any opposition. And at the same time, we are removing the entrance square for the king. So basically now the king is impossible to reach more the pawn. So let's say the first act it's done. The play um, it's finished the first part, and we are going for the second. If you also notice, at the moment the king and pawn are frozen, because if the king goes to any possible square, it's going to be outside of the square of the pawn, so we have a promotion. And at the same time is blocking the c7 path. So we can say the queen side is frozen. Part one done. Let's move on to the second part. So it's black to move, and because we can't move neither of the pieces on the queen side, we have to look of the three possible moves for the other side. As we can see, the bishop can't move, because if it comes here, of course, we take it directly, and then we have a simple win. And if it comes here, we simply will have a fork. Or let me show you so to be faster. We have a fork, win the bishop, and of course the game. So without the bishop being able to move, the other possible way is to go with the pawn, but this doesn't change much. We simply can pass the move for black. This is just one possible way to do it. Of course, we could go with the king to h6, attacking the bishop. The bishop goes away. We have the same fork, so either move will bring the win easily for white, because now it's black to move. Only possible move without allowing the pawn to promote is going over here, and then we have the fork again, winning the bishop. So this remains just one move. So I think reaching this point in the solution, if you are doing the deep calculation, searching the moves also for the defensive side, you are going to reach here, the beginning of the second phase. And the pawn advances. This also helps the bishop because it now has more scope. And of course, we take the pawn. I don't see any other important move to mention here, so we take the pawn. And now let's see what black can do. Of course, it can move the g pawn, but we'll just, for example, if it moves here, I will just block it, and the bishop is forced to go again to g8, being lost for the fork. If it goes to g5, well, I simply take it, and then I can help promote my pawn because the queen side is frozen, as we saw on the first part. And the bishop needs to move. What moves can he do? If he goes here or here, we have a fork. So if it goes to g8 or g6, it will be forked. Here is controlled, of course. Here we get another fork with a knight on b4. And so the same goes for c2. So basically, we are noticing that the bishop only has one square. Okay, b1. This is the only move. And now starts the second aim of white. White needs to restrict this bishop because the bishop is going along this diagonal. So the idea and the correct solution for white is to play not only for catching the bishop, but blocking it without allowing him to have scope. So the right move here, if you want, you can also think, if you haven't reached this in the solution, because this is also a critical move for white, the only good move is to go king e5. Why? Because at one side we are controlling this important square because we want to advance our f pawn, with the idea of placing the pawn in f5, cutting the access of the bishop to the two available squares, and so forcing it to go into a forking square. So this is the right move, and this is the right idea. Let's see, for example, two mistakes. Going here frees this square, the e4 square. So when black advances the pawn, not only gives another square, as if I advance here, I also have this possibility. Okay, that's why this move loses control of the e4 pawn. If I try to do something else, like for example going with the knight, forking the bishop, if it comes here, not enough. So if I come back and for example the bishop goes here and the knight gives the fork, the king goes to attack my pawn, and now, as you are going to see, I'm not able to win this game. This is a draw. Okay, let's see, for example, I'm going here, and if I advance the pawn, black also advances the pawn. If I approach, black also approach. If I advance again, notice that the king can control the square of the pawn. So either I go to support the pawn or I go to attack the pawn. So now white either is going to need to help its pawn or take this one. So if it takes, then we get a simple draw. This is not possible for black, neither for white to win. Coming back, the other possibility, for example, it's king e3, but now we are releasing this square for black, and again black plays g6. Now I go there and the same thing happens. I will just move some pieces really fast, and so basically it's the situation, but it will end in a draw. This was important to explain, and I hope now you understand why we need to get control of both these squares. Now, black to move again. If the bishop goes back, it will be the main line, so we advance the pawn. Of course, the bishop needs to move again, and if it goes down, now I have reached my aim of blocking the diagonal. And if you notice, whatever the move black mates now, like for example g5, trying to invite me to take the pawn and pass a, and then the bishop takes back. Of course, I won't do that. I will just simply advance the pawn, and it's impossible. I will get a queen and control the g pawn. Coming back here, we saw that bishop h7. I just advance the pawn and block it and win the game, because, for example, if the bishop goes here, I will have the fork and win the bishop. This is the intention of blocking the diagonal, but we also have to look at two other possibilities. Advancing the pawn now is not enough, because I can go block again, and now looks the same, but I have one tempo up, so I will win the pawn, because I have this pawn already in f4 instead of f3. And so when it takes, I take back, and now it's gonna be a promotion and check, and now I can have my tempos to take the pawn. So it's really impossible for black. The same goes with going with the pawn to g5, because I can take this pawn with the king. I just simply take, and then I just help promote my pawn to a queen if the bishop sacrifice. This situation keeps playing black, placing back in a zigzag, so it's impossible to force. So two acts and one win. I hope you have enjoyed the solution, and see you in future studies. Bye bye.